The political landscape in Washington remains turbulent as the Trump administration faces mounting pressure to deflect attention from ongoing controversies. At the center of this storm is what insiders are calling Signalgate, a scandal involving the alleged mishandling of sensitive communications. For weeks, the administration attempted to downplay the issue, dismissing it as a non-story. But as scrutiny intensified, tactics shifted. The White House now appears to be in full distraction mode, with allies and staffers scrambling to redirect the narrative. One such diversion came in the form of Senator J.D. Vance's recent trip to Greenland, a visit widely criticized as a poorly executed publicity stunt. Observers noted the timing, coinciding with fresh leaks about Signalgate, as anything but accidental. Meanwhile, former Trump aide Caroline Leavitt was dispatched to declare the scandal officially closed, a claim immediately contradicted by insiders. Sources close to the administration reveal that President Trump is preparing to fire a high-ranking official, a move seen as an effort to pin blame and move past the controversy. The question on everyone's mind: who will be the scapegoat? Names circulating include National Security Advisor Pete Hegseth, whose tenure has been marred by multiple security lapses. Reports suggest Hegseth repeatedly used unsecured devices to transmit sensitive information, including communications later traced to Russian servers. Compounding the issue, Hegseth allegedly brought his wife into classified briefings, a breach of protocol that has raised eyebrows even among staunch administration defenders. Critics argue Hegseth's negligence stems from a broader culture of disregard for security norms, exemplified by Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, who reportedly used an unsecured phone inside the Kremlin during diplomatic talks. The irony is stark. Witkoff once lectured staff on secure communication practices, only to violate them himself. Another figure under scrutiny is Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, whose performance has drawn bipartisan criticism. During a Senate hearing, Gabbard faced allegations of perjury after offering conflicting testimony about her awareness of classified weapons programs. When pressed, she claimed a lack of recollection, a defense that fell flat under cross-examination. Her counterpart, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, also came under fire for appearing uninformed during a briefing on foreign air defense capabilities. While Gabbard's missteps seemed calculated, Ratcliffe's blunders painted a picture of a man overwhelmed by the demands of his role. Yet the most unexpected twist lies in Florida's special election, where the outcome could determine the fate of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Behind closed doors, Waltz has reportedly told colleagues that a victory for Republican candidate Randy Fine would cost him his job. The race, once a GOP stronghold, has shifted dramatically, with Democrats gaining ground amid backlash over policies linked to billionaire Elon Musk. Retirees and veterans, key voting blocs in the district, have expressed anger over proposed cuts to Social Security and Musk's influence on Republican agendas. Democrats, however, risk squandering this momentum if they fail to capitalize on the growing discontent. For the Trump administration, sacrificing Waltz could be a desperate bid to reset the narrative, but insiders doubt it will stem the tide of criticism. As political infighting consumes Washington, the economic repercussions of the Trump administration's policies are beginning to ripple across the nation. At a hastily arranged press conference outside the White House, President Trump unveiled a sweeping tariff plan that sent shockwaves through global markets. The announcement, a 10% baseline tariff on all imports, coupled with a 25% levy on foreign automobiles, triggered an immediate sell-off, with the S&P 500 plunging in after-hours trading. Economists warned the move risked reigniting inflation, destabilizing supply chains, and isolating the US from key allies. Yet Trump framed it as a declaration of economic independence, promising it would reverse decades of perceived exploitation by foreign nations. The president's reliance on tariffs harkened back to an earlier era, one he romanticized in his remarks. From 1789 to 1913, we were a tariff-backed nation, Trump declared, holding up a chart to illustrate his point. We were the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world. Historians were quick to counter this narrative, noting that 18th century tariffs funded a fledgling government, not a modern, interconnected economy. Trump's fixation on outdated trade strategies baffled experts, particularly his assertion that abandoning tariffs in 1913 led to the Great Depression. This isn't policy, it's historical fan fiction. remarked one economist. The middle class will bear the brunt of these costs. Republicans, however, rushed to defend the tariffs, employing increasingly strained analogies. Senator Tim Shahee of Montana likened the economic pain to remodeling a house, messy but necessary for long-term gains. Drywall dust everywhere, he quipped, urging constituents to endure short-term hardship. Others echoed the sentiment. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama insisted people deserve pain to revitalize manufacturing, while Ohio Senator Husted argued tariffs would level the playing field for businesses burdened by foreign regulations. Their rhetoric did little to reassure voters. In Ohio, factory owners warned the tariffs would shutter plants and cost jobs, contradicting Husted's optimism. "He's either lying or clueless," said one automotive supplier. "This isn't a remodel, it's arson." The administration's isolationist stance also drew fierce international backlash. Canada, labelled a bad actor by Trump for dairy tariffs, announced a boycott of American goods and tourism. South Korea, Japan and China began forging alliances to counter US trade aggression, while the European Union vowed retaliation. Even Trump's attempt to justify the tariffs devolved into confusion. During the signing ceremony, he abruptly digressed, musing about the word groceries, such an old-fashioned term, but beautiful, before forgetting to sign the executive order altogether. An aide had to redirect him to complete the task, a moment that underscored the chaos surrounding the policy rollout. Domestically, the fallout intensified. Farmers in Trump-friendly states like Montana and Oklahoma demanded federal bailouts, anticipating retaliatory tariffs on crops. Senator Shahee pledged unlimited support, but specifics were absent. "We'll go bigger than $28 billion if we have to," he vowed, despite no clear plan to fund such measures. Meanwhile, Republicans faced scrutiny for defending unpopular policies beyond tariffs, including efforts to revive bank overdraft fees, a move framed as celebrating Women's History Month by one lawmaker. Overdraft protection helped a military mom buy tires, argued Senator Langford, ignoring data showing such fees disproportionately harm low-income families. Critics blasted the talking points as twisted and out of touch, particularly as inflation ticked upward and job growth stalled. Amid the economic turmoil, Trump's allies doubled down. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, whose fate hinges on Florida's special election, dismissed concerns about the tariffs' impact on national security. Behind the scenes, however, advisors reportedly urged Trump to reconsider, fearing the measures would strain diplomatic relationships critical to countering China. Their warnings went unheeded. The president instead touted the tariffs as part of a liberation day for America, promising citizens would look back on this moment as the most important in history. Markets told a different story. The Atlanta Federal Reserve projected a 3.8% GDP contraction for the first quarter, signaling a potential recession, one that could eclipse the economic stability achieved under the previous administration. The global and domestic fallout from the Trump administration's tariff blitz reached a fever pitch this week, exposing fractures in international alliances and deepening economic anxiety at home. Canada, once a steadfast trade partner, escalated its response to what officials called a declaration of economic war by announcing a sweeping boycott of American goods and tourism. The move came after Trump accused Canada of imposing 250 to 300% tariffs on U.S. dairy, a claim fact-checkers noted as exaggerated, and vowed retaliatory measures. The rift has left farmers in border states reeling, with dairy cooperatives warning of catastrophic losses if tensions persist. Meanwhile, U.S. isolationism has inadvertently united historical adversaries. South Korea, China, and Japan began formalizing an unprecedented trade pact to counter American tariffs, while the European Union fast-tracked its own defensive measures. Analysts warn the alliances could marginalize the US in global markets, undermining decades of diplomatic efforts. Trump's strategy isn't making America great, it's making America alone, remarked a former State Department official. The administration's haphazard approach was further highlighted during the tariff signing ceremony, when Trump abruptly abandoned the podium without executing the order. An aide had to usher him back to complete the task, a moment that epitomized the policy's disorderly rollout. Domestically, the administration faced backlash over a separate but equally contentious issue: banking fees. In a surreal Capitol Hill hearing, Republicans defended efforts to revive overdraft charges, framing them as a lifeline for struggling families. Senator Langford of Oklahoma cited a military spouse who relied on overdraft protection to replace a car tire, calling it a celebration of Women's History Month. The argument drew swift condemnation, with critics noting that such fees disproportionately drain $15 billion annually from low-income households. Celebrating exploitation as empowerment is grotesque, snapped one advocate. Even conservative commentators balked, with Laura Loomer tweeting, "This is how you lose elections." The White House's struggles to control the narrative were compounded by Trump's increasingly erratic public appearances. At a tariff-themed rally, the president veered into a baffling aside about plastic Easter eggs, musing, "Could you use plastic eggs? I said we don't want to do that." The remark, unrelated to any policy, left attendees confused and overshadowed his attempts to tout economic gains. Later, Trump declared the tariff rollout Liberation Day, a phrase that rang hollow as the Atlanta Federal Reserve revised its GDP forecast downward, predicting a 3.8% contraction and stagflation. Farmers, once a core Trump constituency, voiced desperation. In Montana, ranchers lobbied Senator Shahi for immediate bailouts, fearing retaliatory tariffs on beef exports. Shahi promised unlimited aid but offered no details, stating, "We'll go bigger than $28 billion if needed." Skepticism grew as economists noted the absence of funding mechanisms, with one quipping, "This isn't a plan, it's a prayer." As midterms approach, the political toll of these crises is becoming undeniable. In Florida, the special election once seen as a GOP lock has tightened, with Democrats leveraging voter fury over Social Security cuts tied to Elon Musk's influence. Retirees, a critical bloc, have flocked to town halls demanding protection of benefits. "A vote for Republicans is a vote for Musk," one attendee argued, echoing a slogan Democrats have yet to fully embrace. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, whose job hinges on the race, privately conceded, "If Randy Fine wins, I'm definitely getting fired." The administration's refusal to course correct, even as allies plead for pragmatism, signals a deepening entrenchment. Trump's recent quip about seeking a third term drew nervous laughter from Republicans, but behind closed doors, anxiety is mounting. Senator Josh Hawley, a Trump loyalist, admitted the Constitution's clear on term limits, yet stopped short of condemning the rhetoric. For voters, the chaos has crystallized into a single question: how much more collateral damage will be tolerated in the name of ideological purity?